All right, so yes, I did get another e-bike, but this is not any ordinary e-bike. This is a special e-bike from Vanpowers, which I'm gonna let you know all about it. It is only 30 pounds and it looks just like a regular bike, which having using this for the last 3 weeks, I think this is the perfect e-bike for any city environment because of many conveniences. So in this video, I'm gonna let you know all about my experience and why I think this is my new favorite bike. So let's get this video started. What's going on, guys? This is Eddie, aka Mr. Eddie Nunez. Thank you so much for hitting that play button and watching another one of my videos. If you're new here, my name is Eddie, and I review all things gadgets, tech, such as cameras, primarily drones, and now, as of more recent, a lot of e-bikes, because with all these electric gadgets that I have, you need something to get around and explore. And I am really excited to showcase the City Vanture from Vanpowers. Because as you saw, it is an extremely lightweight bike that is sleek, modern looking, and it does not look like an e-bike at all, which is the #1 selling point to me when I saw this bike, is the fact that it just looks like an ordinary bike. So in today's video, I'm gonna let you know all about my experience using this bike for the last 3 weeks. I'm also gonna let you know about the build quality, some of the specs, things that I like and things that I do not like, again, after using this for a couple of weeks. So let's jump right into it. So like all my other videos, there's a lot of specs to memorize. So I'm gonna take a look at some of the notes that I highlighted when I unboxed this. And let me first start with that, the unboxing. The unboxing experience is extremely pleasant. This by far has been the best e-bike that I ever put together from the factory. It comes in a very small, compact box, and all you have to do is mount a few things. So all you have to do is put the pedals on the pedal arms, your seat, the handlebar, and the front tire. And the front tire comes with like this mechanism that you just use with a little handle, where it doesn't really require any tools. So it is extremely convenient to put this together. By far the easiest e-bike that I put together out of any e-bike that I've built or tested. All right, so let's jump right into the build quality. So the Vanpowers City Tour is crafted from aerospace grade 6061 aluminum. This frame weighs just a whopping 34.17 pounds, which is 15.5 kilograms. The bike has absolutely zero welding. It is a solid aluminum design frame. It just has like its components where it was, put together and screwed on, but absolutely zero welding, and it feels extremely durable and sturdy while carrying in and out your home or even riding it. This particular e-bike from Vanpowers comes in 5 different colors. This here that I chose is the Infinite Silver, and the reason why I chose the Infinite Silver is just because of its aesthetics. I think the silver with this camel tan look on the tires, the seat, and even the handlebars, to me looks fantastic. But just know that you can get it in all solid black, you can get it in blue, you can get it in red. Check out Vanpowers, which I'll link in the description below, for the full suite of colors. So now let's talk about the design, because as I mentioned at the introduction of my video, the design is what really sold me on this bike. So this comes in a very modern and sleek design, in my opinion. This does not look like an e-bike at all. There's not a lot of messy cables. The cables are all built in internally into the tubes. Of course, the cables do come out where it needs to come out, like into your brakes, your little controller arm for the display, etc. And the battery is completely built in inside the tubes. So overall, this bike looks completely sleek and compact. But what I really like about it, as I mentioned earlier, is that it doesn't stand out like an e-bike. Now, in a densely populated city like New York City, sometimes you want to go somewhere and you want to lock up your bike, but you don't want to draw attention to it. And when you have certain e-bikes, it does call attention to it, and you may get, your bike stolen. But in this particular case, because this looks like a normal e-bike, I feel extremely confident. I felt extremely confident leaving it around at, bike rack chained up as I navigate through the city, whether I go to the mall, whether I go visit some friends, or I'm just cruising the city, enjoying a beautiful day like today. So the frame itself measures 21 inches with 700C wheels. There are no throttles or gears to do any shifting. The City Vanture is a perfect, simple city bike for anyone that doesn't want to tinker or add any complexity. The bike does have pedal assist, but again, no throttle. And the pedal assist is really responsive as to how you pedal. There are 5 different modes that you can go ahead and change and toggle through with your little controller here. That's going to adjust the output and the amount of power that you experience based on the settings that you dialed in. Now, the pedals here, the bike itself does not have a torque sensor. So once you start pedaling, the bike does kick in. There is like a 2 to 3 second delay, but overall, I found it extremely responsive and not a burden overall, the fact that it does not have a torque sensor. As I mentioned earlier, there is a display here on the handlebar, which is very compact and sleek, hardly even noticeable, but it does have a lot of features. For one, you can see what mode you're in. You can see your battery. You can see some stats such as the amount of mileage that you have, ridden this bike for. You can see the mode that you're in. It's very user-friendly, and it does have the controller here where when you press M and hold it down, it powers it on. You can toggle up and down, and when you hit M again, you can actually go and navigate through various features. So that is really cool on a bike that looks like a normal bike, the fact that they even thought about adding the screen. So great job, Vanpowers. Now let's talk about motor, because motor is extremely important when it comes to any e-bike, right? You want to know how much power is it, how many volts, the wattage hours. And looking at my notes here, the City Vanture comes with a 36 volt, 350 watt motor. It has 5 levels of pedal assist, which can get you up to 20 miles per hour. The motor is controlled by a sensor that adjusts the power output based on your pedaling. The motor overall is very quiet and small, making this, again, hardly noticeable as an e-bike. This bike is pretty unique in the fact that it comes with a belt drive versus a typical chain, which means that maintenance is pretty low and doesn't require much cleaning. Now, when thinking about motor, you also have to think about battery. And the battery here is a 36 volt, 7 amp, 252 watt LG cell down tube battery, which means, again, that it's here within this tube, which is, again, something that you really want. And it's the main feature of this bike. And you also have the ability to mount an extra battery here that almost looks like a water bottle. And with that extra battery, you can get about 50 to 80 miles. With its current status and current state, with a normal, ordinary battery that it comes with, you get about 20 miles on average is what I've experienced so far using this bike over the last couple of weeks. Now, the only con about having a built-in battery is that you cannot remove it for charging. I know some people don't like charging, at home or in the garage, etc. So just keep that in mind, that you cannot, actually remove the battery from its case here and charge it outside or charge it somewhere of your liking. You have to actually charge it on board with the bike itself. It does have a little power adapter there. You connect it and it's all built in. So just know that you cannot remove this the battery to charge it anywhere else. It has to be charged within the bike itself. Some may look at that as a con. I just want to let you know that. Now, the battery itself takes about 2 to 3 hours to charge from like 10% all the way up to 100%, which in my opinion is a pretty quick charge, and it's normal and on par with other e-bikes and their charging capabilities as well. You want a slow charge as well when you think about these chargers and these bikes, because you want to prolong the longevity of your e-bike. You don't want to always pump super fast charging into your battery cells, because it's going to deteriorate over time, giving you less and less performance and range out of the bikes. So overall, I think the specs of this charger and the charger capabilities is in par with standard safety mechanisms out there to ensure that you get the best performance at the safest result as possible as well. Now let's talk about brakes, because brakes is a safety feature, right? We just spoke about safety on the battery. You also want to know how quickly can you stop this bike in the event that you need to, slow down or come to a complete stop all of a sudden. So the brakes are actually high quality brakes. They're Tektro hydraulic disc brakes, and the brake levers are also Tektro. They're the HD M2A5. So quality was not sacrificed by Vanpowers. You're getting the best out of the best when it comes to your brakes, tires, and overall construction of this bike. They didn't cheap out at all. Now, looking at the seat, I think the seat complements the bike with the aesthetics. It has these cool little buttons here. It has like this suspension in the back. Just know that the bike does not have any sort of suspension, so it has a little bit of cushioning here on the seat, which is pretty cool. The seat is actually not uncomfortable. It is very comfortable in my opinion, considering that it is sort of a hard seat. It does have some cushioning to it, but compared to like my GrandTeton Pro from Vanpowers that I got, I had to change the seat immediately because that was a hard seat. But this seat here, I'm gonna keep, not only because it complements the aesthetic looks, but also, like I mentioned, it is not uncomfortable seat at all. All right, so now let's get into the pros and cons of using the Vanpowers City Tour bike over the last 3 weeks. And I notated a list here of items as I was using it, just so that I can remember every time I saw something that I liked or something that I didn't like. So let's start with the pros. Number one, it is light and easy to maneuver and travel with. As you saw, I'm able to pick it up just with a single hand. It is extremely lightweight. It is not cumbersome. You can actually mount this in your car. You can take it upstairs if you live in an apartment in New York City. You can, bring it up if you need to get into an elevator, right? If you live in an apartment building, you need to bring it up to get into an elevator. Very easy to do because the bike overall is very sleek, slim, and lightweight, which is the number one pro besides it looking like a regular bike. Secondly, the Vanpowers City Tour was completely built with high quality parts. We touched on the brakes, we touched on the motor, we touched on the seat, we touched on the aluminum body, all completely quality parts. While putting this together, nothing felt cheap. And I'm overall impressed considering the price point that this comes in, which we'll touch on in a second. Third, this bike is extremely easy to assemble, which I alluded to earlier in the earlier part of the video. It really took me maybe all but like 20 minutes to put this together. It was extremely easy and the most pleasant experience, I have to say, putting a bike together. I was actually shocked. I went back and I checked the manual to see, did I forget or miss a step, which I did not. It was just that easy. Fourth is the hidden battery. Of course, we want to highlight this again because this is the compliment that the bike has. And I received numerous compliments as I've been riding out here in the city today. People were asking me, hey, is this actually an e-bike? And the reason they can tell that it's an e-bike is because of the tiny motor in the back. But overall, most are actually confused whether it's a regular bike or e-bike. And that's all because of the battery pack being hidden. Fifth, it is IP66 waterproof. 7, it has a nice integrated display in the front. 8, it has no messy cables besides these cables here in the front. And then last is that it's a belt drive, meaning that it's going to be no rust in your chain, very little wear and tear, and also very little maintenance. So those are all the pros that I captured while using this bike over the last 3 weeks. Now let's talk about some of the cons, and the con list is very small compared to the pros. The first con is that it does have limited range of 20 miles, and that mileage is going to vary based on the power that you have it set to. Obviously, if you have it like in the lower eco mode, you're gonna get more out of it. If you have it in the boost mode, you're gonna get less miles out of it just because the motor is working harder. So, you know, that's one of the cons that I think about overall, but you know that you can combat that by adding that extra battery that I spoke about, which is sold separately. The second con is that there is no suspension besides the suspension here in your seat. So the front post and the rear tire has absolutely no suspension. So that's also very important to know. Although the ride is fairly comfortable compared to an ordinary e-bike, but it just understand that if you're going to be going like off-road, which you really shouldn't with this bike, this is more built for the city, you're going to have sort of a bumpy ride because it does not have any suspension. And then finally, the last con is that it doesn't have any built-in lights, whether in the front or in the rear. I wish that's something that Vanpowers did add to this bike, even if they increased the price maybe another like $50 to $100, you know, especially when you're riding in the city. I think having visibility is very important. It does come with the reflectors in the front and in the rear, but I think a light overall, a brake light and a front light would have been extremely handy. Even if it's a small little miniature one, doesn't have to be powerful, but you know, when you're when they at sunset hours and into the night and evening hours, as light starts to dim, especially in the city environment, the smallest light makes all of a difference. And I think that's a little bit of a miss from Vanpowers, but nothing that you can't fix by just adding light that you can buy on Amazon for like 10, 20 bucks. And even Vanpower sells accessories that you can add on additionally. So now let's get to probably the number one important thing that you're waiting for is price. So I said all these great things about the Vanpower City Tour, but what is the price point? So as of right now, and I say as of right now because with everything that's happening in the world with tariffs, etc., pricing is always subject to change. And these are obviously built in overseas in China, I believe. Pricing right now, pre-assembled, comes in at $1,099. And that is for the pre-built version, which I mentioned earlier. You only have to put the seat post, the pedals, the front tire, and the handlebars. There is another version I saw out there online where it comes completely disassembled and you save a couple of dollars. But at the time of shooting this video, I actually did not see that listed on Vanpower's website. I'm not sure if they got rid of this version, but either way, I highly recommend, unless you're someone that's completely mechanical inclined and savvy and know how to, you know, put bikes together, I strongly recommend that you just buy the pre-assembled one, because in literally about 20 minutes, as I mentioned earlier, you can have this set up and ready to go and ride. So $1,099 for the pre-assembled version. I think that's a fantastic bargain and at a fantastic price for a solid built bike such as the City Vanture. All right, so now let's jump into my overall conclusions after using this for 3 weeks. I have many e-bikes, as you probably already know, on my YouTube channel, and I also use e-bikes to ride to work, especially now when you know, we are approaching spring and summer and even into the early fall season. It is something that I truly enjoy to, you know, navigate the city with. Of course, I have, you know, multiple cars in my household that I can use, but sometimes there's nothing like getting on a e-bike and doing your errands or exploring the city or going on a creative adventure. The city tour here from Vanpowers has been fantastic over the last 3 weeks for all the points that I've already covered, right? It does look extremely sleek, and this modern design, it actually turns many heads. I think it's because of the color tones here. This infinite silver with this camel tan looks absolutely fantastic. But, you know, overall, besides the aesthetics and the looks, the bike is actually, you know, built extremely well. And I'm not saying that just because I'm making a product review for Vanpowers. I actually truly mean it. Like, you know, the build quality here is extremely good. The frame is so solid. There's no welding, and which means with less welding or no welding, you're less prone to cracks or damages as you are riding, right? We are, or I am, in New York City, so there's going to be bumps. There's going to be, you know, obstacles that I have to ride over, and that's going to put some stress on the frame. But the fact that it doesn't have any welding means that I can use this for the years to come. Now, speaking of years to come, Vanpowers offers up to like 6 years of warranty on up to 6 years of warranty. So warranty varies based on the product and the component. But you know, considering like just generically speaking, up to 6 years, that's a lot for an e-bike. And the fact that Vanpowers backs up their products that long truly also complements that they're building quality stuff. Because if the company wasn't building quality bikes, they wouldn't put a 6-year warranty out there, because they don't want to keep replacing and spending money on replacement parts. So them knowing that this is going to last, I guess, up to 6 years is how they can back up that 6-year warranty. And then the other thing that I want to mention is the overall slim and compact design, which I touched on many different times already. But the reason why I'm also bringing that up again as my last point here, my closing comments, is that it doesn't make this bike cumbersome at all. Like, I can literally pick it up. I can visit a friend's apartment. I can take it up the stairs. I can go inside of an elevator bank, as I mentioned earlier, and bring it up the elevator bank. I can chain it up somewhere. I can put this inside of my car if I want to, you know, with the seat folded down. I can mount it on a bike rack and not worry about breaking my back. Overall, this is just the perfect e-bike for any city adventure. Now, of course, you're not going to be using this to go off-roading. You're not going to be using this to hit trails. But for the city life, I think this is just truly perfect. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and this review. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. As always, with all my e-bikes and electronics, if you are local in the New York City area and you want to give it a try before you buy it from Vanpowers, feel free to hit me up on my email or my social media handles, and we can set up some time, and you can get this a test ride for yourself. Obviously free of charge. I'm not going to charge you for that. That's how strongly I believe in these products. So check it out. Links are in the description below. Check out the full suite from Vanpowers. Thank you, Vanpowers, for sending me this e-bike and allowing me this opportunity. Stay tuned for more videos from this and the GrandTeton Pro, because all summer long, this is the tools that I'm going to use to capture content for my YouTube channel and social media overall. So again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace. It's time to get on this bike and head out.